You remove a conscience and you unleash a generation like Hitler talked about. And one man like that led millions into untold evil. How is it possible? Secondly and quickly, because most people do not know how to think. It's a reality. It's just not ongoing. I remember at the University of Iowa years ago having a bit of a comical interaction when I did an open forum. And a young student stood up and just cupped her hands, yelled at me from across the other side and said, "Whoever told you life needed to be coherent?" And you know, you learn, if you allow a person to talk long enough, they end up really convicting themselves. So I kept listening and listening and listening, and she was quite animated. I respected the fact that she needed to have the floor. I'd had it for 45 minutes. So when she finished, I said, "Can I ask you a question? Do you want my answer to be coherent, or may I be incoherent in answering you?" A ripple of laughter went through the student body audience. I said, no, I'm not making fun of you. I really want to know, do you want my answer to be coherent or incoherent? Isn't it interesting when we judge somebody else, we judge them by coherence or incoherence. When we want to give ourselves liberty, we may be as incoherent as we choose to be. This is the result. People don't know how to think. And the last point that I make from Manasseh is that the ultimate test of any civilization is what we do with our own children. The ultimate test of any civilization is what we do with our own children. I had just become a grandfather. I was telling Lieutenant Governor Reynolds before we came here that a corporal once went to Winston Churchill and said, "Mr. Churchill, have I ever told you about my grandchildren?" He said, "No, and I want you to know how much I appreciate it." But I watched my grandson now, Jude, 20 months old, and how he takes that little hand of his to grab the hand of Papa. Last week I celebrated my birthday, and this 20-month-old phones, he was in Turkey, my daughter and my son-in-law, they're doing some work there. "Happy birthday, Papa. Happy birthday, Papa." You just take a little statement like that and you think to yourself, this little boy is growing up in a very difficult world. How are we going to train him? How are we going to raise him? What we do with our children is an ultimate test of any civilization. Think about it. You pass on the trust and the light into future times. Manasseh destroyed the progeny and the nation paid. It was under the grandson of Manasseh that an 8-year-old boy by the name of Josiah turned the tide. That was the second king. At the age of 8, he was appointed king because the predecessor had died. At the age of 16, he began to seek after God. Did you hear that? So a lot of young people here from our schools today, let no one despise your youth. I want to thank you for being here. Just about 3-4 weeks ago, I had the privilege of being at West Point at the prayer breakfast there. The most thrilling sight, as wonderful as it was to see all the leadership, to see the hundreds of cadets in the audience, getting up early in the morning to come and have that prayer breakfast in their mind, right in front and center. I want to thank you, young people. You're going to carry this into the future. You can seek after God at this young age. You can begin to see the difference your life will make by the lessons you take now and by the values you espouse and the passion you come to. At the age of 20, Josiah began to cleanse Jerusalem. At the age of 26, he began to cleanse the temple and ushered in that great Reformation. 2 things he did that I want to bring to you. Number 1, he gave people back the Word of God. He gave people back the Word of God. And you know where it was lost? It was lost in the house of God. If we need to look in any direction today for correction, as Margaret Thatcher said when speaking at the Scottish General Assembly, the church in Scotland, she said to them, "You are the ones to impart faith to the people and belief. We may govern the land, but you as the church have to impart the truths of the great Judeo-Christian tradition." She gave a brilliant, powerful speech. Therefore, we as the Church of Jesus Christ, those of us who claim to be a part of it, it has to start with us. We need to ask ourselves, are we giving people the Word of God? Are we giving them that which will be a light unto their feet and a lamp unto their path? That which will guide them or into the future. Remember the words of Abraham Lincoln, who said this so powerfully. He says this, "We have been preserved these many years in peace and prosperity. We have grown in numbers, wealth, and power as no other nation has ever grown. But we have forgotten the gracious hand which preserved us in peace and multiplied and enriched and strengthened us. And we have vainly imagined in the deceitfulness of our own hearts that all these blessings were produced by some superior wisdom and virtue of our own. Intoxicated with unbroken success, we have become too self-sufficient to feel the necessity of redeeming and persevering grace, too proud to pray to the God that made us." Powerful statement from a great man at one of the most pivotal moments in history. And what was he calling us to? A recognition of the sovereign, a recognition of the grace and goodness of God. Even till this very day at the crowning of the British monarch, the Bible is presented to the monarch with the words, "This is the greatest gift the world affords. It is the Word of God for you to guard it." What is it that the Word of God does? We'll move to that quickly. But the second thing he gave to them was the privilege of worship, the privilege of the sacredness of your personal commitment to God in every aspect of your life. Here's what I want to say to you. All that we do in public is ultimately governed by who we are in private. And what we do in private can only coalesce either with the sacred or with the profane. Can only coalesce either with the sacred or with the profane. Remember what Archbishop William Temple said, answering the great Greek philosopher's search for unity and diversity. He gave the most brilliant definition of worship. He said, worship is the submission of all of our nature to God. It's the quickening of conscience by His holiness, nourishment of mind by His truth, purifying of imagination by His beauty, opening of the heart to His love and submission of will to His purpose. All this gathered up in adoration is the greatest expression of which we are capable. Worshipping God is the primary call of every individual. That's the only thing that brings together head, heart, mind, will, purpose, and compassion. If not, we live a fragmented life, making ad hoc decisions as they come by the day. Worship governs how we make our choices, because worship is coextensive with life. And prayer is at the heart of worship. And so, Governor Branston, I want to thank you, sir. I want to thank you all as leaders that you still honor this day. More than anything else, we need to come together as people to pray and be governed by the wisdom of God. We desperately need that, especially at a time like this in world turmoil. I was putting to the folks last night, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, the head of intelligence in Syria said to me when I asked him, what do you think is happening here? He said, I give to this part of the world no more than 5 years and the whole thing is going to blow up. And it happened. He had to pay with his own life. We don't know what the future holds, but worship will guide and lead us. The Hebrews put it this way, God is like the light, success is like the shadow. If you don't look towards the light and walk there, the shadow will follow you. If you turn your back upon the light and chase the shadow, you will never catch up with it. Pretty powerful stuff from that little talk. What happened? Number one, three results, and I promise you I'll close in time. I know you all have to go and vote, and because we all want you to vote the right way. So we'll quickly bring this to a summary. Number one, what happened under Josiah? It built a conviction of safety for the people. You know what it is when your children feel safe? When you feel safe? That's what he did. He built a conviction of safety for his people.